Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, species around the multiverse, welcome to Geek Syndicate episode 319. What episode is this?
I'm not helping you.
Don't leave me hanging, man.
If you check the extensive notes that you've been sent prior to the episode.
What extensive notes?
Well, the meeting invite actually states Geek Syndicate GS episode 319.
I was right. I heard it, and it was in my subconscious.
You obviously doubted yourself because it was a guess.
It was. Yeah.
You know what? Just get on with the intros.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, species around the multiverse, welcome to Geek Syndicate episode 319. What we doing? I'll tell you what we're doing. We're bringing the sass back to geekdom. I am Monts, and with me, as always, is...
That's me, innit?
Yes, you.
Me, Nuge, not to be confused with that guy who's also me. And I just want to say...
Are you sure it's not Chidi?
No, I'm not even. I'm too angry. I'm not even. It is not Chidi, but Chidi is here. Before we kick off, I want to give we're going to do shout outs. I want to give a big shout out to everyone who has donated and bought us a virtual coffee via Ko-Fi. Is it Ko-Fi or?
I say Ko-Fi, but I don't know.
Yeah. Who's given us a virtual donation via Kofi Annan, head of the UN. Thanks.
That's not quite right, though, is it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Okay, we'll take that.
Yeah, thanks, Kofi. And via our Patreon page. What I will say is we were able to get enough with some help. The person who gave the help knows who they are. I'm not going to call them out. So I've now been able to purchase Zoom for the year. And that's
for
largely
the year, for the year. For the year.
Yes, what I said, the year.
It was year.
Look, if you're going to start calling out the way I talk because I'm a North Londoner, we're going to get into a whole kind of trouble.
No, I ain't criticising. I'm just saying. Oh no, I'm just observing.
I'm trying to be all deep, thanking people, and you're just giving me grief. You want to put that drink down, buddy, and get yourself a glass of water.
I'm trying to be culturally relevant for the people who may not understand North London talk.
Well, I'll be putting subtitles on the YouTube vid, and then people will follow along, won't they?
That's very generous.
So, as I was saying, what was I saying?
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. So we've now got the Zoom Pro for a year, which means we'll probably still have to keep doing these now, or give people their money back.
Hey.
Yeah.
So, yeah, thanks a lot, everyone.
I'm going to get a CG version of myself, so I won't have to look at you. So
you just got one. You got one down there, haven't you?
If the next episode, I'm just going to do it as a tennis ball and then CG myself in afterwards.
Well, there'll be just as much emotion. Sorry, I don't know. It's been a long day, man. I don't know. I'm sorry.
Jeez, man.
I'll reel it back in.
Have you got any shout-outs?
No.
Right. Shall we just get on with the news then?
It's time for the news. Oh, sorry, I've got to do that. I've got to go for the close-up effect. It's time for the news.
Thanks.
It's all right. That's what I do, man.
So news, I'll start off. So obviously we are, well, I was going to say still caught in the grip of COVID, but depending who you talk to, everything's fine and we can all go outside, and so long as we don't talk to anyone or stay inside or go outside, I don't even know where we are at the moment.
The weird one, because I'm an actor, I've got a lot of theatre people on my feed, and the confusion is so you can have a cinema, you can do this, you can do that, all these things which are very much like going to the theatre, but you can't go to the theatre, but you can go to the cinema. And I'm like, I'm so confused. But
because I don't want to start this into a 20-minute conversation about COVID, because no one wants that. Thought Bubble and a few other conventions have been cancelled. As soon as we put together a special forces team, Mike will be right over there. Yeah, don't you worry. Yeah. It might take us a bit of time because
Mike is over in the US and he's asking us to send help, but he's on his own until we can get the funds together.
Yeah,
to raise a private army.
Yeah, and to be honest, we've got our own problems.
Bojo.
So Yeah, so Full Bubble's been cancelled this year, which, to be honest, was what was expected. But what they have announced is they're going to do like a virtual convention instead.
I saw that.
Have you heard about San Diego?
That's gone virtual as well, hasn't it?
That's gone virtual as well. So has what's the one in Kendall? There's a Kendall Comic Con. That's gone virtual as well.
It's really interesting. I spoke at a virtual convention this weekend, just gone by, and it's weird. So you go on the website and you've got like basically 6 links for whichever stage you want to go to.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so one was like conversations about this, one was like a chill out zone, one was like a sort of a chat room for people who'd been to the convention before, one was the main stage, and it was weird. So and you had someone comparing each room, if you like, and going, so for the rest of the day, if you want to head over to this stage, Thingbob should be starting now and stuff like it was a heroic attempt at organisation, but it was fascinating.
I'm really interested to see. So, so obviously San Diego is like the biggest sort of convention and stuff, and I'm really interested to see how a virtual San Diego Comic Con is going to work. I plan to sort of stay up for it and stuff because I normally do anyway. Because normally we have a couple of people who do stuff for GS who are based out in the States, and for the last sort of 3-4 years, I've been able to get them into San Diego. So they've done coverage there. I've been staying up until the crack of dawn whilst they've been emailing me press releases back that I've been furiously trying to get up onto the site and stuff. So this year it'd be quite interesting to kind of just be going along as a punter.
Yeah.
And just to see what it's like and how it kind of works. And I'm really interested to see what happens next year with all of these conventions, is whether or not, once all this is done and dusted for the most part.
It's what you've been saying for years, though.
We've said this for years.
Yeah, you need a virtual ticket alongside the actual ticket. And, maybe it could be limited in some ways, but we're a global village now. It just makes sense to open it up virtually somehow. And maybe this is the thing that will kick that off.
Yeah. And my thing is as well is that all of these, as far as I know, are free. I mean, if people in the chat room feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but is a San Diego virtual one free? Does anyone know? I think it is.
Pete's nodding. What was interesting about the one that I just did? It was free to everybody, but if you paid, you got access to everything. Whereas if you didn't pay, your access was limited, not by a lot, to be honest.
Right.
I think they just charged a tenner, so it wasn't that much in it, and it was just a few sessions that you needed the tickets you need to pay to get into, but everything else was free.
I think going forward, I obviously I want to see how it all works out this year, but I would pay for a virtual con.
Yeah.
Show of hands, who would pay for a virtual con? Okay.
Yes. Look, nah. People are undecided. Amy says depends.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think San Diego will be the big test. I think seeing what they do, and definitely how Thought Bubble does it as well, will be the biggie. But obviously, the one of the reasons you go to cons is that sort of social aspect. Is to sort of meet other people, to catch up with people, see your creators face to face, that sort of thing. And obviously, that part of it is what gets lost.
What was really interesting, just looking at I keep coming back to this convention I did, this festival I did at the weekend. And I was looking at some of the posts people were doing after the event, and there was a few people going, "Oh, I love the catch-up room, being able to catch up with people I haven't seen since the last one," and whatever. And I was like, "Wow, does that really worked for them somehow?" I found that fascinating. I was like,
yeah.
What do you want to talk about, Dennis ONeil?
Oh yeah, because there's been a few deaths, haven't there?
Yeah, there's been a few. Yeah, I mean, okay, so let's start with Denny ONeil. So Denny ONeil was. He was my Stan Lee. So if people were upset about Stan Lee dying and, going to the great comics reading room hereafter, everyone thought that's going to be a sad day, and it was. But for me, Denny ONeil dying was a big one for me. That was probably the big one. He was one of the last greats that I really wanted to meet. He he worked on The Question, who's my favourite character, way back in the 60s when he was a Charlton character. And then when they brought him over to DC, he revitalised him, and that's when I found my interest in him, and that changed everything. He's the father of modern day Batman, sort of the Dark Knight version of Batman. He did something called Hard Travelling Heroes, which was Green Lantern and Green Arrow travelling America. And it kind of really brought social injustice into comics. And they looked at race issues. They looked at class issues. You found out that Green Arrow's sidekick was a junkie. All this stuff. He really shook things up wherever. I think someone said, and I don't know if this is right, that he was the one that made Tony Stark an alcoholic. So he kind of really shook things up. And everyone who's worked with him speaks so highly of him that it's a kind of real, he was 81, he died of natural causes. But what was really interesting, I only discovered today, let me see if I can find that. DC have done a compilation comic, DC's Green Lantern 80th Anniversary 100-page Super Spectacular, which has gone on sale. And in it, is Denny ONeil's last story for DC, which is a flashback. It's a Green Arrow, Green Lantern flashback to when they were on the road. And it says, a particularly violent encounter with the villain Clock King puts Hal and Ollie back out on the open road, both of them re-examining how they fight crime and how a different approach could make them both better heroes. And that kind of just sums up the kind of work that Denny did, actually. And I just want to salute the man, really. Thanks for all
also,
that.
Didn't he do, because obviously, you know this, coming up, you were DC, I was Marvel. So I didn't read a lot of DC stuff. But didn't he do the run with Ra's al Ghul, which was, was it like 4 issues? It was like a 4-issue.
Yeah. He was responsible for Ra's al Ghul, if memory serves me correctly.
Birth of the Demon and all that, and Demon's Quest, which was really, which was just brilliant. So much so that they did that story in the Batman animated series.
Yeah.
I think it was David Warner.
Then they did it again in Green Batman. Sorry, Arrow.
I've still got to say, every time I think about Ra's al Ghul in Arrow, I always think about that awful stunt double when they have the big fight, two of them. They have this fight, the two of them, and it's like, it's just so blatantly not him. It's just so blatantly a stunt double. It's almost embarrassing. But in
terms of death, it's also worth mentioning Ian Holm. And part of the reason I want to mention him is most people, he did a lot of stuff and people think of him being Bilbo in Lord of the Rings. But I'm here to say he was my Frodo.
He was my Frodo.
Because it was the 80s. It was the 80s.
It was the 80s, mate. Yeah,
the 80s BBC audio adaptation of Lord of the Rings. He played Frodo, and he played Frodo brilliantly. I think that is my favourite version of Lord of the Rings.
It's still my and every year, because now you can get it. I think we've said this before, but you can now get it on Audible. So last year I listened to it all, and I'll be doing it again this year. And it's a commitment to do because it's like 14 hours, and I've still got up in the loft the tapes.
Yeah, you used to tape off the radio.
Yeah, no. Sue bought me.
Oh,
it was
no,
not long after we started going out, and she bought me the
steal off the radio.
She got me. No, I know because I don't know if you remember, because it used to come on the radio, and you recorded a load, and I used to borrow the tapes off you. But because you could only get so many, I never heard it in its entirety until I got the proper tapes many years later.
Darren Cooks just said BBC had a great run of sci-fi fantasy stuff then, and I remember they did the show called Hordes of the Things, which was like a comedy show.
Yeah, sorry, picking up Dion's point about the radio version of The Hobbit sucked balls. Yeah, I tried to listen to that, and I thought it was going to be exactly the same. I was already excited in it. It just wasn't.
Yeah, I don't remember that. Yeah, go on.
I was going to say, but to go back to what Darren was saying, I remember back in the day, because I had them on tape, they did, I think, 2 or 3 Superman radio adaptations on BBC. One was Death of Superman. One was like, I think it was Man of Steel or something. They did Batman Nightfall, which was wicked.
That's the one I remember. I remember that one.
Batman Nightfall was like, yeah.
As Wedgestock says, they did it right.
Yeah. Yes, I did hear the Judge Dredd one. Judge Dredd was wicked. I had them all. I had all of the tapes. They did a Spider-Man one as well, which was really good.
Good times. Of course, I can't listen to it. Well, I could. I had all the CDs that was bought for me by an ex in this golden presentation tin, and I was listening to it back. Every time I got in the car, I'm chucking it in, and then someone broke in the car, and the only thing they stole was the CDs, apart from the one that was actually in the player. So I've got disc 7, which is a lot of good on its jacks. So yeah.
What car was that one?
It's my old car.
Not the one that me and you used to go in.
No. Literally.
Okay, because I would understand why.
No, literally a car that I owned this was last year. I started to do another listen through. So I had to go and buy it on Audible.
No, I do remember.
Like, gutted, man. Right.
So my last bit of news before we move on is the sentence I've written down is Michael Keaton to return as Batman.
I saw that. Yeah.
So it's early talks at the moment.
But is it to be on the Flash TV show? Is that? Oh no, in the Flash movie.
No, the Flash movie.
Wow, man.
Which I've heard is, I think some people have said it's going to be, Flashpoint. Yeah, which I think is what Dean just said. Yeah. It
was really interesting seeing movie Flash in the TV series when they did Crisis.
Yeah.
I was like, I didn't expect that. I thought of all the crossovers they're going to do, I didn't see that one coming.
So maybe, I don't know. Maybe
in my head, does that mean at some point in the movie, Flash is going to break the dimensional barrier and we're going to see Barry Allen from the CW shows just for a moment?
I don't know. They will go the other way. They always see, and Marvel's done the same. They'll go the way of bringing someone from the film into the TV series, but they haven't gone the other way.
I'm still gutted that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. weren't in the final battle in Avengers.
Yeah, don't even start me on that. I love that show.
Yeah, I'll get going on that.
Criminal.
Would you like to see Keaton back?
Yeah, I think the way they want to do him is they want to bring him back as a bit of a mentor figure. And it's funny, whenever I think of like Batman, I always think of not even Christian Bale, and I love like the Christian Bale films, but there's always that bit in I think it's the second Batman film where like all shit's kicking off in Gotham City. It's like we need to get Batman, and they turn on the bat signal or whatever, and he's got shit set up on the top of Wayne Manor to like reflect the bat signal.
Yeah.
And it all kind of turns and it all reflects. And he just happens to be sitting. He's just sitting in the living room, like in total darkness. He's just sitting there, like chilling. And then the light, and it comes up. He just goes. And I thought, and I remember going to sit in cinema and going, "That's Batman. That's Batman." I don't know how no one didn't figure out he wasn't Batman, because everywhere he went, he had the black polo neck sweater, which everyone knows. Come on. So I'd be interested to see that, definitely. And maybe this is DC kind of starting to get its game together a little bit now.
DC be making some interesting moves. We'll see. I'm watching DC closely at the moment, and we'll see how it all plays out.
Have you seen they dropped a little? Sorry, you go.
No, go on.
I was going to say, you seen they dropped a little snippet of Snyder Cut.
Obviously, I haven't been watching them that closely because no.
Okay.
So
to be honest, there's not much to see. It's Wonder Woman with a torch, and there's a little bit of, I think it's Darkseid. Is it Darkseid? I think it's Darkseid. Yeah.
I do want to see that cut, I'll be honest.
Yeah.
You good to move on?
I'm good to move on.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the week that was. When I said move on, B, I didn't mean come back. Wow.
Sorry.
Are you sorry?
No, not really.
Okay.
Not for that joke.
I just, as we talk about Batman, I want to talk about a comic that I'm halfway through the first collection, and it's called The Wrong Earth.
Okay.
So Jimmy told me about this, and it is. So imagine So it's all about dimensional breaches opening up again. So imagine the 1960s camp Batman. Yeah, to the Batmobile, Robin. That Batman goes through a dimensional breach and finds himself in the darkest of the Dark Knight Batman's world, and vice versa.
Right.
That's what happens. So in the dark verse, his version of Robin is dead. Yeah, and he's dark, and he's not trusted by the police, and the police are all corrupt. And then into that world comes in, I'm Dragonfly Man. It's actually so the two characters are called. So let me read the blurb to you. It's from Ahoy Comics. It's written by Tom Payer and Paul Constant and Jamar Eigel are artists, and it says, on dark, gritty Earth Omega, masked vigilante Dragonfly punishes evil maniacs and evades corrupt authorities. On sun-splashed Earth Alpha, costumed crook catcher Dragonfly Man upholds the letter of the law. Now they're trapped on each other's worlds where even the good guys don't share their values.
How does that ring a bell to me?
I don't know. Jimmy put me onto it, and so far I'm loving it. It's just like, wow. Because of course, in 1960s Batman, the villains never killed anybody. Nothing really bad ever happened. And then suddenly you've got like, because also the Dark World's version of the Joker gets into Happy World.
Oh, okay.
So it just goes nuts, man. And you see what it does to each of those heroes. It's really, really, really interesting swap, and just quite an emotional journey for those two heroes. So watching that happen. So initially I thought, this is going to be quite funny in the first issue. Yeah, this is hilarious. And then you start to get into it and you're like, okay, this is serious. It's called The Wrong Earth. And I'm enjoying it more than I imagined I would.
You want to be careful, mate, because there's an option of mine that says put in waiting room. So
I don't like you being in charge of this.
That's all I'm saying. So I got a comic. So has anyone here heard of a comic that's only just come out called Adventureman?
Adventureman? Sounds pulpy.
Ooh, lots of notes. So this, I'll read you the blurb. I'll try to read you the blurb. A cataclysmic adventure decades in the making. In this wildly affordable triple-length first issue, revisits how the legend of the greatest pulp hero of them all, Adventureman, ended in a heartbreaking cliffhanger with our hero facing execution at the vile hands of his ultra nemesis, Baron Bizarre, on the eve of the Macabropolis. Macabropolis. 80 years after his apparent demise, single mother Claire and her adventure fan son Tommy seem to be the only two people alive that remember the thrilling Adventureman sagas. But from that memory burns a spark of resurrection. Where his story ended, her story begins. This sense obliterating, earth-shattering, imagine-quaking adventure that spans generations to comes from you from Matt Fraction, Terry and Rachel Dobson, who did the art on it. So basically, it is literally like someone took Matt Fraction out for coffee and went, there's this guy in England called Barry. He loves pulp stuff, So I reckon if you did a comic like about pulp stuff, and we'll send it over to that Barry, I reckon he'd like it, mate. And Matt Fraction's gone, you reckon? And he's gone, yeah, I reckon you should do it, mate. And he's got on the phone, called up sort of Terry and Rachel and go, do you know what? I reckon we should do this comic for this guy in the UK called Barry. I reckon he'd love that. And they've gone, yeah, go on, then we're in. And then they contact Image. You know how the story goes. And Image goes, what, do you mean Barry? That guy in the, yeah, he'd love that. Oh, he'd love it. Yeah, go and do it.
He'd love it.
He'd love it. And they've done it, and I've got it, I've read it, and I can categorically state that yes, indeed, I love it. Not only do I love it, I adore this comic. Because basically it starts off with Adventureman is basically Doc Savage.
I had a feeling.
And his team, like, I can't even. I got the comic out and it was just a random afternoon. I was like, let me just read it. And I started to read it and I got as far, which is probably about 3 pages in. to the introduction of his team, and I got that far, and I had to stop. I was like, nope, I need to read this properly. So I waited till the next day, I had nothing on, sat down, made myself a cup of tea, got myself a pack of Jaffa cakes, put my feet up, and then properly just read it and then read it again. It's awesome. If you love pulp adventure, you got to get it.
Okay.
The art is glorious. So I said the writers Matt Fraction, Terry Dodson was the pencils, Rachel Dodson was the inks, and the letter was Clayton Coles. So it basically starts, as most pulp adventures do, mid-adventure, and it's a Doc Savage-like character called the Adventureman and his team, and they're battling this guy called Baron Bizarre, and it all goes badly wrong. And then it jumps to the modern day, and then you've got this.
Oh, nice! So it's going to be some healthy dose of flashbacks.
Well, that's the thing. Once is that I don't really, it jumps to the modern day, and then I don't want to give too much away, but you're not even sure if Adventureman actually was a real person, whether or not he's a character in the book. We don't quite know. Do you get what I mean? And then, but as it goes on, you start to think maybe something else is going on. And what I really liked was, so obviously this was a bumper issue to get it all started. So I think it was 60 pages. But then at the end of it, there's a whole interview with Matt Fraction where he kind of explains like why he wanted to do it and stuff. And what was really interesting is because it is set in the modern day, and the main character is she's hearing impaired, which I didn't realize at first because I sort of missed a couple of panels, and I realized I had to go back to how they do it, and they do it really well. In that it shows her taking off her sort of hearing aids, and then the way they do the lettering sort of fades into the background to show that she can't hear anymore.
Nice. So
as I said, you can tell this is a labor of love, this comic, and it's been like decades in the making for them. But what he wanted to do is he said he loved pulp adventures and stuff, but what he wanted to do was to bring them up to date, because let's be honest, some of them pulps don't age well. Sexism, racism, what I mean? You only have to watch a Tarzan to just, so what he wanted to do was to sort of basically bring back pulp for like a modern era. He's got off to a great start, but that's really difficult. I think doing pulp in the modern era, it can be quite a difficult thing, because I think it does lend itself to that kind of 1930s vibe. And I think when you look at the last Indiana Jones film, which I enjoyed.
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it.
But if I had one of my criticisms is it was just starting to get to that era where it was almost too close to our time. If that makes sense. So I'm interested to see how this sort of goes on, and I've already subscribed to it on Comixology. I'm not going to wait for trade because this is pulp. So if it's pulp, I should be doing it cliffhanger style. So I should be getting it every month.
I hear you. I hear that makes sense.
Yeah. So that's Adventureman. Go pick it up.
Weirdly enough, what you're leading me, and you'll see why in a minute, into a comic. I know this is week that was where we talk about stuff we've read or whatever, but basically I had to mention that there's a comic I want to read. I haven't read it, and I want to read it. And it might surprise you because it's probably not a character whose name I've ever mentioned before or shown any interest in. It's Jimmy Olsen. I want to buy a Jimmy Olsen comic. I know your face is like, the hell? So
what you talking about, Monty?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But this is why, yeah. So I started reading, and here's another weird one, yeah. And it's by Matt Fraction. That's the connection. That's what got me there. So, but I didn't even click it was Matt Fraction. The reason I wanted to was because I started reading, and here's another comic you'd never have seen me get into. It was Lois Lane.
You mentioned the Lois Lane comic before.
It's a 12-issue series by Greg Rucka. And it's really good. It's very noir, and it's got both questions in it, the female one and the male one. That was how the question was reintroduced to this version of the DC universe through Lois Lane. And let me tell you, Greg Rucka ain't playing. He is nailing his political affiliations to the wall in this one. He's not leaving you to any doubt about how he feels about the current administration.
Right, okay.
But it's very noir. It's full of proper investigative journalism, which is kind of what gives it that noir feeling. And it's kind of like, and she's basically like, Superman, just keep out of it. I'm looking after myself. This is something I got to do. And she just bells it. She just hangs him out when like he protects her and saves her. And she was like, I'm no damsel in distress. You need to back off, Kent. Kind of stuff like that. I'm like, ooh. To be fair, she's a bit of a dick. But it is such good writing. And one of the characters in it that really, really, really jumps out is Jimmy Olsen, because there's a whole level of stuff going on with him that none of the other characters are noticing. He's in deep with some stuff. He's gone deep with investigative journalism. He's uncovered some stuff you wouldn't believe. And I looked at him going, what is happening with Jimmy Olsen? There's some really understated stuff going on here, which looks funny and quite amazing. So then they've started a Jimmy Olsen series, and I just, out of curiosity, I looked at some of the covers and I went, that looks as wacky as the stuff that was going on in this, and it's by Matt Fraction, which is always good. And then I read the blurb, and this is the blurb for issue 1. Jimmy Olsen must die. I was like, okay. He goes, wait, we're getting ahead of ourselves. Jimmy Olsen lives. Superman's best friend and Daily Planet photographer Jimmy Olsen tours the bizarre underbelly of the DC universe in his new miniseries featuring death, destruction, giant turtles, and more. It's a century-spanning whirlwind of weird that starts in Metropolis and ends in Gotham City. And then we kill Jimmy. That's the blurb for issue 1. I was like, I've got to be doing that. Jimmy says Jimmy Olsen comics are a love letter to the whacked out crazy Jimmy Olsen comics from back in the day. Darren says can't be doing with Fraction, read Sex Criminals for ages and then got bored out. So I'm reading Sex Criminals, I'm loving it. I'm on the second big collection. I got to the end of it and I thought, is this going somewhere? I don't know. I hope it is, because I'm going to keep going. But I did find myself wondering where it was going. But I do love the look of Jimmy Olsen, so I'm going to get on that.
Okay. I mean, I read the first issue of Sex Criminals, and it didn't do anything for me, so I didn't really carry on with it. But it remind me, Matt Fraction, did Matt Fraction do Hawkeye? Was that am I getting confused with someone else?
Yes, he did.
Okay. I loved Hawkeye.
No, that's my Hall of Fame of comic series of recent times.
So let's leave comics behind. I want to talk TV, or rather streaming.
I know where you're going. I bet I know where you're going.
But you don't. All right, you say what you think I'm gonna say, and then I'll say if you're right.
See, you know me well enough to know that I've got it wrong.
I know, which is why I'm waiting for you to say it.
No, go on.
No, you picked yourself up, so you go first.
All right. I thought you were going to say Alex Ryder. You were. I know my beans, man. I
hate you. I fucking hate you, man. I hate you. I'm not even joking anymore. I fucking hate you.
That's nothing changed since 1980 then.
No, true that. Yes, I was going to... Yeah, so I watched...
7 episodes in.
Are you?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so is it 8 episodes?
Sorry, 6 episodes in. I started it. Me and the missus started it 2 days ago. That's how... it was 2 or 3 days ago. I said to Siobhan, Barry says it's a bit Bond-esque. We should give it a go. Siobhan loves Bond. We sat there, watched the first one. We started going, I'm really tired. Brain's not working. Don't know if I can watch another one. Started it. Got to the end of episode 1. All right, let's just keep going.
I'm telling you. There's... I can't... So, for people who don't know, so Alex Ryder is a series of books written by Anthony Horowitz. And it's basically a teenager who gets recruited by a top secret organization,
which is a bit dark, really.
Basically a bit MI6-y type thing. And it turns out that he doesn't realize, but he's kind of been prepared for this by his uncle, who was, who worked for this organization.
So apparently Anthony Horowitz, according to Ant, has written a couple of Bond novels recently.
Yeah, I'd heard this.
All right.
So they did an interview of him, and he said his biggest regret was the Alex Ryder movie adaptation, which was called Stormbreaker.
I remember that. Never saw it, but I remember
which kind of reverts back to that point we were talking about last week about authors not being happy with their adaptations and stuff. Now, I watched Stormbreaker, and I thought, it's all right. I hadn't read any of the books. I had no skin in the game. Do you know what I mean? So I went into that Alex Ryder TV show knowing that I'd watched the film, and I was already a bit kind of okay, give it a go, mate. The minute the title sequence kicked in, I'm in like Flynn.
Title sequence is awesome.
I'm in like Flynn, man. And it's kind of like it's one of the few title sequences that I don't skip. Whenever Sue goes to skip it, I'm like, don't put that down. It's awesome. And we blitzed it, same like you, blitzed it for a weekend.
I thought it was funny though, because you got this banging kind of hip-hop-esque title theme. And the dude's a good actor, but when he had his bicycle helmet on, the guy played Alex Ryder, he just looks like Mr. Bean. And I'm like, how are you? And then I start thinking of Johnny English, and I'm like... But that being said...
It's a quality show, man.
Proper spy stuff going on.
And I think what's quite nice is where I'm at the moment is I'm looking for a kind of lightness to the shows that I'm watching and the comics that I'm reading. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that kind of nailed it for me.
Well, you say light. Okay,
it's not light, but you know what I mean?
You don't go to bed feeling weighed down, but this shit is tense, man.
Yeah, I suppose what I mean is, this is what I said to you at the end of it, it was nice to watch a show where actually there was someone to root for rather than everything's grey, everyone's the good
evil. Guy's a good guy and the bad guy's a bad guy.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? It's like, I know the state of play, it's great, you know. And there's one action sequence in this show where I was literally cheering, not because it was amazingly done or anything for that, but I was like, that's about as Bond as you get. Whenever you think of Bond, you think of a particular sequence. For me, it's some sort of ski chase, and they do something like that in this show, and I was
okay. Like, I'm about to get to that.
You're not there yet.
No.
I was all over that. I was waiting for Sue to go to bed so I could come back downstairs and rewatch that scene. So it was.
It's great. I thought spoiler really. Yeah, I won't say it. Yeah, but there's some harsh bits with. Let me just say this, and you'll know what I'm talking about. There's some harsh moments with the posh people. Yeah.
And nothing says fun TV like seeing a posh dude get smacked.
I was waiting for it. I sat there and I said to Siobhan, I think he better punch him out. He better.
Simple. You think you've got to a stage in life, you've evolved, and you kind of take people as you find them and all that sort of stuff. And these people came on the screen. I just turned to see. I was like, I really don't like posh people.
It's harsh.
Because the way they just go, it's just
some of my best friends are posh people.
Not me then.
I think we ascertained that years ago.
Yeah. On a slight side note, did you know when I worked for IBM as a teenager, they tried to get me to go into elocution lessons to fix my speech? There we go. Boom. Yeah.
Literally. So for those of you listening to the podcast, I've got everybody's profiles up on Zoom, and about 3 people just went, huh? Yeah. Faces just went, what, and froze. I'm like, wow.
This was why I didn't. So people always wonder later on when I got offered. I was the only writer, so I got offered a job at IBM, a job as a sponsored student, or whatever, and I turned it down. And a lot of people didn't understand why I turned it down, and that was part of the reason why I turned it down, because they wanted to do a whole My Fair Lady thing and send me off to get my speech fixed. Which, to be fair, probably would have made for a good film, and I probably would have got played by like Denzel Washington or something. But
fix up, look sharp.
You know,
you might have fallen in love with your tutor, that kind of thing.
Yeah, happens.
Yeah.
Shall we? You got anything else?
Mate, Alex Ryder's the only thing I've been watching.
Is it? Yeah. See, my thing is, I don't want to bring it down, so I'll put this to the chat room, because what I'm going to say will probably bring down the positivity. But if people want to know, I'm quite happy to give my thoughts on the Artemis Fowl movie, just because the last 2 episodes I've talked about it, and I've now seen the Artemis Fowl movie.
Do you know what? I've had your yeah, we could talk about Upload. Have I talked about Upload before? I don't know.
We talked about it last week, mate. Where have you been?
Yeah, so we've had.
Wow. Talk about your heavy lifting, man. Jeez.
I've had a lot going on, man. Anyway, so we've had your opinion on Artemis Fowl without you actually seeing it. So I'd quite like your opinion, you having seen it.
So my opinion of Artemis Fowl, I don't want to just go out and out it's shit, because I feel that but my thing is,
that's like saying I'm not racist, but
my thing is like, what is the point, right, of spending the money to get a property and not bother to follow the source material? I just don't get it. So I actually sat down to watch it in the morning. Sue was just like, I'm not watching it. I was like, okay. And
I respect your commitment to going through with it, though.
But my thing is because I love the books, and there's always that part of you that thinks maybe, and there's one scene at the beginning. I don't know if anyone has actually seen it, if I'm the only one, but there's one scene in the beginning where he's kind of talking to a psychiatrist. And that is probably the only scene in the entire film where I think they've got Artemis Fowl.
I actually remember that really clearly from the book.
Yeah, that's the one scene I was like, and that's right at the beginning of the film. So I was actually thinking, maybe I got it wrong. Maybe those trailers I saw were woefully edited together. Maybe, oh no. Because now he's
Men in Black.
Yeah, it was awful from the point of view of the whole concept. Any film, any book, any TV show, you should be able to boil down to like a sentence. That's what they always say if you're going to pitch something. What's your pitch? What's your elevator pitch? With Artemis Fowl, the whole concept of him is he's a 12-year-old Bond villain, and you take a 12-year-old Bond villain, and then through the course of his adventures, you slowly redeem him, inch by inch. You redeem him until you get kind of a hero.
Yeah. Yeah, because he started to do the right thing, but it was never an easy journey to get there.
Yeah, and it was always a ulterior motive with him anyway. And even in the first book, there was a ulterior motive which was nice, but he still pulled off a heist. And I always say to people, the first book is basically, what if you did Die Hard with fairies and the Hans Gruber character was a 12-year-old? And John McClane was a female fairy trapped inside his house. That's basically Artemis. That's the first Artemis Fowl book. Right?
Literally, why would you not want to pick that up?
Why would you not want to pick that up? Someone pitched that to me, and I'm like, I'm all over that book. And then I got that book and I read them all. This film basically makes him a good guy from the beginning. And they're bringing all this Men in Black bullshit and all this, for centuries the Fowls have protected humanity by collecting these artifacts and blah, blah, blah.
Protected humanity?
Yeah. He's
a bad guy. He's an out-and-out bad guy.
Apparently now criminal masterminds can be good guys helping humanity. Obviously, Lex Luthor didn't get that memo. So it was and after that, it was just a catalogue of disaster after disaster, and it wasn't good. It wasn't good.
Okay, so if you had to rate it out of 5, Your silence speaks volumes, my friend.
I would. I would. I'm trying to find some positives. They really aren't.
You're really trying hard there.
I can't. I'd give it a 1, just to be generous, because
to be generous. There you have it, people.
I'd give it a 1 to be generous. I'm not heartless. I'm not a criminal mastermind. He certainly ain't. So so if you're thinking about yes, the music was okay, Christoph. Yeah, music was all right actually, by Trevor Rabin, I think. But the fact it starts with Artemis Fowl surfing tells you all you need to know about how they got that character wrong. Don't even start me on Butler. Don't even.
Trailers tell me all I need to know about that.
So you haven't seen anything else? It's all a me then.
Literally, we don't have much time, and our time is okay. Jimmy's freaking me out right there with the. Jimmy's just freaking me out.
So what we could do, is
we basically have to get our watching in before the baby wakes up crying. So it's kind of like
okay. So I will talk quite briefly about a show that we're currently watching. I don't want to talk about The Last Kingdom because I'll be here all day, other than to say it's great. But there's a show we started watching on Netflix called The Order. Has anyone heard of this?
I remember watching the trailer and thinking that's not for me.
So I watched the trailer and thought, yeah, that's not for me. And then we finished Alex Ryder, and we were just looking for something to just put on. And we stuck it on, and I think we were watched about 6 episodes, and it wasn't what I was expecting at all. I thought it was going to be a bit kind of, not serious, but do you know what I mean? Oh, secret society within the college and blah, blah. But actually, it's trying to go, the market it's trying to hit is the Buffy market. It's trying to hit a Buffy tone. Now, it's not there. But then I still stand by the first season of Buffy was okay. A lot of people, say Buffy was brilliant. Buffy didn't get brilliant until Angel lost it. That second season when it upped its game. So I'm always willing to give things like a fair crack at the whip. Whereas, like I said, this first season, it's got some good jokes. It's funnier than I thought it was going to be. Some of the stuff around the main guy is more interesting than I thought it was going to be. And then they're bringing this whole werewolf sort of storyline, which I just did not see coming from I think the second or third episode. So it actually moves really fast, I think, plot-wise. And it's like I said, it's a light touch. It's just a bit of fluff and a bit of nonsense, but it's quite good fun. And it's been given a second season, which I think is already dropped on Netflix. So I'm really interested to see how things change in the second season. I still need to finish watching the first season. Also, any guy who they call the Grand Magus, who wears a polar neck sweater the whole time and has a big beard, it's like,
yeah,
I'm in.
Fair enough. I did not see that review coming. I never saw that coming away at all. Yeah, I want to talk about Ants mentioned staged. Siobhan and I just thought it's 6 episodes, 15 minutes each. And when I saw that and I thought, yeah, we can fit that in, I watched that and I freaking loved it. So it's David Tennant and Michael Sheen, recently of Good Omens fame. And it's them, there's a guy called Simon who wants to put together a play, wants to rehearse the play over Zoom during lockdown so that when it's all lifted and everyone's looking for theatre, they're all, they're off and running. It's really understated comedy because it's not the kind of comedy you expect to laugh out loud about, but I laughed out loud at several times because you're just, you've got these two characters playing themselves. I mean, genuinely playing themselves. Right. Their partners are in it. The guy who wrote the show is playing himself as the director of the play, and he just comes over as a proper loser. Actually, the person who comes over as a proper loser in it is David Tennant, because he's just not holding it together at all. So good on him for playing himself as such a loser. It was just great. And his relationship, you just watch them as they go on lockdown, is messing with their heads and they're losing it. And there are a couple of celebrity guest appearances that will make you just go, what? How did they do that? And it is so good. Totally surprised, but it's such an easy watch. It's 15-minute episodes, 6 of them.
What's it on?
iPlayer, BBC iPlayer.
Okay. Has it been heavily? Because I think I saw something about it, but I didn't really know what it was, so I kind of left it.
The first time I heard about it, we went to the park and bumped into someone who we knew, and he went, "Oh, David, staged you'll love Staged on BBC iPlayer." First I'd heard of it. Straight a friend in the park. I'm like, come on.
Another hole-in-one for the BBC marketing team.
Yeah, I mean.
Jeez.
The whole thing is most like 98% done through like Zoom camera angles, and some of it works. I think Georgia Tennant, his wife, David Tennant's wife, is a part of the production team as well.
Okay.
And she's so dry on it. She's hilarious.
So the last thing, so I'll put on my list of things to watch. The last thing I want to say, and then if anyone's got any, I still need to edit our questions from the Senate for our last episode, but I'll get on that. But if anyone has any questions,
now's the time.
We'll take some questions after I say what
in
I'm
a
going to
moment,
say, and we round up, and then we'll take some questions. You done?
Yes.
Right. So this is coming, I think, next month on Netflix, and I can't believe you haven't heard of this show.
Is it coming soon on Netflix?
You laugh, right? You make jokes until I say this. There's a show coming to Netflix next month called Warrior Nun.
I have seen this. I haven't seen the trailer. I just saw the picture and I was like, what?
Mate.
What?
Mate, I saw the picture.
This is an old comic. I'm sure it is.
Weirdly, when I was looking up today, I saw like a comic cover and I meant to look up to see if it was. If it is, I'm going to check out that comic as well. But I watched a trailer for it and I'm like, I'm all over it. So the blurb is, after waking up in a morgue, an orphan teen discovers she now possesses superpowers as a chosen halo bearer for a secret sect of demon hunting nuns.
Of course. Of course she does. So I'm just looking it up now. 1994. It was called Areola. Isn't that a nipple? Oh, Areola. Areola is a warrior nun. Areola is what it was called. In the first issue, a brief origin of Areola is told. Then we fast forward to the present day and witness the training of two modern day warrior nuns, Shannon and Mary. A defrocked nun battles. It looks like complete madness. If the TV show has got half the madness of what I just read, which I couldn't even finish reading out, then I'm all over that.
When you get a chance, watch the trailer.
Okay.
I'll be watching that show. So before we take some questions from the problem is that I listened to a podcast with Sue and they have a segment called Questions from the Public, and I keep wanting to say that and it's questions from the Senate. So you need to round this up.
Well, so yeah, shall I do it properly?
Or you could just do it because you've not even done it yet.
No, that's true. All right, yeah. So thanks for being here. Thanks for listening. Now you know what to do. You can find us at geeksyndicate.co.uk. But please, check us out. Drop us an email. Let us know if you agree with the conclusions we've come to, or you violently disagree with them. You can do that by drop us an email at thegeeks@geeksyndicate.co.uk. You can also find us on Facebook, on Twitter, and Instagram. And make sure to join the Geek Syndicate group on Facebook if you want to get the Zoom link to our next recording and just to be in our live studio audience. Yay!
Also, again, big thank you to people who have donated to the upkeep of GS. If you want to buy us a virtual coffee, you can do over at Ko-Fi. We'll put Ko-Fi. I don't know.
It's like Wi-Fi, but with a K.
Yeah, I'll put some links in the show notes, and We have a Patreon page as well, and obviously you can donate via PayPal. All monies go back into the show and not into Dave's pocket like he thinks it does, because it don't.
Shame.
Yeah, you got to do the last bit.
What's the last bit?
The Geek Syndicate We Out bit.
Oh, yeah. Geek Syndicate.
We
out.